Hi, good morning. I'm Kerri Callais. I'm counsel at large here in St. Bernard Parish. I also am a managing partner at Callais Ice Service, a wholesale ice production company, also here in Chalmette. I have two little girls. They're 9 years old and they're twins, and they keep me busier than anything else for sure. I'm also a member of the St. Bernard Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and treasurer of the Save Louisiana Coalition, which advocates for our fishermen here in St. Bernard. So I managed to keep busy, but I'm really happy to join you today and talk about some of the issues that are happening in St. Bernard.
So, Ms. Kerri, how have you been dealing with the stay-at-home order, and both like home and with, the parish government duties?
Right. I mean, I suppose like everybody else has, I've created a home office that now subs as a classroom for my two kids. So it's been interesting. I can't complain. I know a lot of people are dealing with a lot of more difficult situations than I have to deal with, but in general, it's been, some lifestyle changes, but in general, it's been okay. My kids may disagree because I don't think they like having me as a teacher very much, but balancing that with parish government and my company as well, it's been, interesting, but we've gotten through it okay.
Yeah. Where do you find the time to raise some kids and work in the government, and then also run the ice company? How does that all?
They probably know more about parish government than most adults. If you've seen me around the parish, a lot of times they're in tow, so they're going to meetings and events sometimes, probably more than they'd like to, but they're good sports. Two great kids, so I'm really lucky to be able to have them with me to share in some of these experiences. I think hopefully it's good life lessons for them. So it's been okay to, I'm used to juggling a lot of different things. So the flexibility of running the ice company, finances, and that part of the business that I handle has been great to be able to do that at home when I can, so that they can have their time to do their classroom work, and all that has been it makes it easier for sure. And then I just have to juggle in the parish part. So we're used to juggling, and it's been okay.
Good. I know before you were with the parish government, you were with the Chamber of Commerce. What got you into that?
Yeah, so I guess that's where my path began with parish government, actually. When I was, managing partner of the ice company, we had some issues with dealing with parish government, and I didn't feel like the businesses in St. Bernard were being represented by parish government in a way that they should. They were kind of taking a back seat and not getting the attention that they should from parish government. And I wanted to address that. And so my first step in doing that was joining the chamber. I figured, if anybody had a voice for parish government, it would be, the Chamber of Commerce. So I joined the chamber, and I went to my first luncheon, and met all kinds of people that now are great friends. I think I made it through one luncheon before they asked me to be on the board. So quickly got involved with that. And then Stephen Ruther, who was the CEO of the chamber at the time, came to me with the idea of Leadership St. Bernard. So we started the Leadership St. Bernard program, which has been 7 years now, I believe, that's been in operation, and has been an amazing journey. But that was my next step, I guess, further into the world of government and community involvement. And, I spent so much time the first year in Leadership St. Bernard telling people that if they wanted to see change, they had to, step up and make it. And when the 2015 election came around, I realized that if I was going to keep saying that, I had to put my money where my mouth was, right? So, Guy McGinnis ran for parish president, so the at-large seat was open, and I decided to run to just increase that voice. if there was somebody on the council who understood, the issues that businesses deal with, I thought that they could obviously be better represented. And I was very lucky that a lot of my fellow councilmen who got elected at that time, as well as President McGinnis, all have the same mindset. So it turned out being a really great fit, and us having the same direction and understanding the importance of business, I think, has really turned around that relationship between our local businesses here and parish government, and how that works over the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, oh, that's great. I have these conversations with my friends all the time where they'll complain about the government, or they'll complain about things that are happening locally, but then they won't go and vote, and they won't go and participate. Right. And so I always have to try to encourage participating on every level, not just voting for the president every 4 years, but
And local government is where you really can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
We struggle even as a government official with the state or federal level of them hearing us, but local government, you can. If you want something in your community or you want something in your neighborhood, people underestimate the power of going to a council meeting and asking for it. We have, we don't have a lot of participation from the community, certainly not the level I'd like to see. And when we do, it means something. When we have a community member come to a meeting and speak for a bill or against a bill, or, just with an idea, the skate park in Torres is a prime example. We had a group of guys come to our meeting and say, listen, we want a skate park. And, came with plans and came, not just, throwing ideas out there, but came with a plan on how that could happen. And now we have a skate park that amazes me, the people out there every day, using it, and our, teenage range kids that are out there, using that park every day. So, it really can make a difference to get involved and to come speak to your local government.
Well, speaking of like the public parks and things, how do you feel about this move into the phase 1 of reopening, the public facilities? I know the parks aren't there yet, but.
Sure. I'm excited. I think that there was a lot of worry when this first started about the spike, right? Our hospital system not being able to control or manage the amount of people or cases that were going to come through. We knew that we weren't going to keep people from getting sick or keep people from contracting the virus. That was never the goal. The goal was to manage that spike. And that way, if you go to the hospital with a heart attack or a car accident, or if they're overrun with COVID patients, the overflow of that is enormous. What does that mean if our hospital can't, handle the amount of people that are being seen? So that was the goal of the stay at home and the quarantine and, all of those things that are happening. We have done extremely well. We saw that spike. It was not what, the levels that it may have been or could have been, or, were shown to us as possibilities for sure. And we were able to manage it back down. And we've seen over the last few weeks, a constant, stabilization of that number, which is exactly what the goal was when we started this. Of course, it's still a concern. Of course, there are still people getting sick. There are still people dying. And, they're working, on a federal level and a state level to try to manage that as best as they can and get, the help that we need to people. And we're going to continue to do that, of course. But the stay at home part of it, we have to get back to commerce. We have to get back to work. We have to, people have to start, resuming normal life at some point. We're not going to see, I don't believe, a vaccine for this, maybe not ever, but certainly not for a while. Hopefully we get a treatment, at some time in the future. But, the biggest message right now is the people that are at risk, the people that are, older or have those health conditions, they need to be, still very vigilant and possibly stay home and, make sure that they're doing the things that they need to protect themselves. But I'm really excited about the rest of our community that's maybe not as at risk to see the worst effects of this virus, to get back to work and get back to a somewhat normal life that we're used to. Still, of course, practicing the measures that they've asked us to do, the social distancing and wearing a face mask when you're in a group of people and those sort of things. So I'm very excited, and the cooperation that we've seen from the businesses over this last week has been incredible. Not that I expected it to be anything else, but very little calls or complaints or anything like that. Our businesses have stood up and have done a great job at navigating this new normal of what it looks like to operate in this time. So I'm very proud of our community for getting to this point, and I think that our path forward is going to be a positive.
Absolutely. Well, can you tell me about the council meetings being reopened for the public?
Yes, we opened our first one last night back to the public. Of course, we're taking all the same standards that I just spoke of. We had masks and sanitizers available at the door, and socially distanced the public out. Closed off every third chair, and made sure everybody had their space. We're lucky to have a huge room to have our council meetings in. So it was wonderful to have the public back in front of us in our meeting. Of course, we had virtual options to do that, but it was really nice to be able to not have a meeting that is an empty room where we're just kind of talking to ourselves and hoping somebody's listening on the other side. So it was great. And to hear from the public again, I mean, that's really an important part of what we do. So we were excited to have that start back yesterday, and I really appreciated everybody that came was cooperative and helped with the new protocols that we had to put in place. So
well, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about some of the things the St. Bernard Parish government is currently working on. For example, so Senator Hewitt just released a video on YouTube talking about this the Senate Bill 359. How do you feel about that, and what is the parish government stance on this?
Sure. Obviously, there's some backstory there. So the purpose or the basis that Senate Bill 359 has come from is based on the legacy lawsuits. So that is, there's a region of coastal parishes who have filed suit against some oil companies who have they went beyond what their permits allowed them to do, and didn't refill canals. So basically, the oil companies have come down here and gotten permits to dig canals to produce oil. When they're done, they're supposed to refill those canals or bring the marsh back to its previous state. There are some cases across the coast where that didn't happen. So there was a lawsuit filed, and St. Bernard Parish joined that lawsuit to recover the damages caused by those oil companies. Of course, there's some controversy involved in that, and I actually struggle personally with that because oil is such an important part of our state and in St. Bernard. Our partners in the oil industry have been wonderful to St. Bernard. It's a major tax base in the state of Louisiana. So it's a balancing act, and one of my biggest sticking points with the lawsuit was the lawsuit went after specific companies who created a problem. The specific companies who broke their permits. So if you came in and you did damage and you didn't follow those permits, then those are the companies that were sued. It was not a suit against the oil companies in general or, the oil industry. We have wonderful relationships with, our refineries here in St. Bernard. They're great community partners. So they're not companies that we're suing. So I think that was, a bit of a confusing part for a lot of people as we went through this. This has been going on for 8 years. This isn't, something new. This is something that's been going on a long time, and it's been in the court systems. And we're making progress. I mean, President McGinnis said at the Senate hearing the other day, we keep winning as far as the suit goes and through the court process. And I mean, for me, it's because it's right. You know, when you do something that is, you know, there was a wrong committed and we're trying to fix it, then that's why it's, you know, going through the court process like it is. That's why we have a settlement on the table from one company for $100 million. You know, I mean, that has happened because there was some wrongs committed that have to be fixed. Mm-hmm. And what we want is to take the money, take the money from that lawsuit and put it back into the coast that was damaged, you know, because of these activities. And so there's a plan set out on how, you know, when a settlement does come through, how it's put back into coastal restoration and to ensure that, you know, the damage that was incurred is corrected. So that like I said, that's been going on for a long time. This bill, my biggest issue with this bill is it's creating a law to fix one specific case.
Yeah.
And I don't think you should ever do that. You know, I don't ever think you should create a law that affects the state as a whole because of one lawsuit or one case or one particular action. So what this bill does is it takes away parishes' ability to sue in general. Yeah. You know, I mean, when it is, you know, this certain issue or this, it takes away our ability to sue. And I know watching, you know, it's funny, you know, we're watching the current, you know, push for, you know, the parishes to have the ability to decide whether the stay-at-homes are lifted. And, you know, the parish view is important then. You know, I mean, yeah. you can't have both ways. You know, the parish's opinion and views can't be important sometimes and not others.
Yeah.
You know, so nobody has a better ability to see damages that are done or to correct them than local people do.
Right.
And to take away that ability of a parish government to go after anybody who created damages in their parish and to find compensation for those damages that is done, I think is never good. You know, why would we go to the state to fix an issue or to handle an issue that is happening right here in general? You know, and so to change that entire law, you know, to try to overcome this lawsuit, I think is just not the way we should be managing our state. I believe as we're speaking, that bill is supposed to go to the Senate floor today. It's been held back a couple of times, so I'm not sure if it will make it to the Senate floor today or not, but it'll be interesting to watch that go through. And I really hope that our legislators, you know, look past this one case and look to the, you know, the good of all of us, you know, going forward as far as, you know, parishes and states and our ability to, you know, work together in our common goals.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When Walter Lizzie Jr. brought it up during our board meeting the other day, and then you had talked about it as well, I got interested in the idea or interested in the case. Sure. And so then I was interested in hearing what, you know, Senator Hewitt had to say, and she released a video and that was informative. But I think, yeah, getting the most information to the public to have them be able to be a part of, you know, the decision-making process is important. What could the residents do who do have, you know, some input on the situation? What can they do to help?
Contact your state representatives. You know, Senator Hewitt is a great friend and a wonderful representative of St. Bernard. We're on, you know, we have a different opinion on this bill, but, you know, I know she, just like I do, would love to hear from her residents and hear their opinions. So, you know, contact Senator Hewitt, and if it does go past the Senate, it would then go to the House. So, you know, contact your representatives there, your Representative Kerri Callais, or, you know, whoever your representative may be. You know, it's not just a St. Bernard issue. So just tell them how you feel. And, you know, I mean, the biggest part to me, like I said, is this is not about oil lawsuits. This is about the ability of our parish to gain compensation for any wrong that is done to us. And I think it's important.
Yeah, 100% agree. Another thing that y'all are talking about in the government is the push to open the MRGO rock dam.
Yes, we're
What's,
going to cover all difficult issues today.
yeah.
So again, that's another a story that goes back for a while. So MRGO is Mississippi River Gulf Outlet. So outlet was dug through the marsh to a long time ago in the 70s or 80s
Okay.
to allow for a more direct route for shipping traffic to get to the Mississippi River. There was supposed to be great reward in it for St. Bernard by having that shipping traffic come through our parish. That never quite came to pass. There was not much traffic in it. It didn't get the use that they thought. And then Katrina came, and there is some thought and evidence that having that pathway sort of created a funnel of water. It made the flooding in St. Bernard worse, based on the Mr. Go being there. So there was lawsuits after Katrina on the flooding that Mr. Go caused, and there was a push to get it closed. So what had happened immediately was they put in the MRGO rock dam. So it's literally a wall of rocks that stretches across the Mr. Go to close off the channel. It was never intended to be a permanent solution. It just stopped the ship traffic immediately in that channel. Since then, we have our levee system. The Great Wall of St. Bernard, came at a later date, which does the same thing. That protects St. Bernard from that storm surge that the Mr. Go, was a concern in causing. Since we have the wall, there is no danger of storm surge coming through the Mr. Go and being worse for St. Bernard, as opposed to that rock dam being there. So that issue is, to me, more of a public perception. I love to fish. I'm on the water, quite often, and I've been out there. It is like I can literally stand on one side and give you a sandwich over the top. It's not protecting us from anything. It served its purpose, and there were people who fought hard to make it happen. And it was a wonderful step forward for St. Bernard at the time, and we appreciate their efforts in getting that done. It's just no longer necessary. And what it's causing is a lack of flow in that channel. So when you have a lack of flow in a marsh system like that, you end up getting fish kills. You end up having a lot of ecological issues in the area because of the blocking of the natural process that happens there. Also, the channel itself has filled in. So we recently found out that the sedimentation that occurs has filled in most of that channel, where the first 20 miles or so of it are now almost all the way filled in anyway. So just another reason why it's no longer necessary there. Also, it does block the traffic for smaller boats. So what happens is our smaller boats, our commercial, not our charter captains or fishing boats, or even our commercial fishermen, they have to go around, and they're going through smaller channels, which causes erosion in those channels. They're holding boats and more traffic than they should, and bigger boats than they should. The wave action is eating away at the banks of those channels, and it's causing accidents. There's too much traffic in these smaller channels when they could just as easily go through the Mr. Go and have a safer route and not damage the interior marsh that they're currently going through. So opening that channel is a win-win across the board for St. Bernard. And we've been dealing on the federal level and the state level for a while to try to get them to let us open a channel of that so we can solve those issues. So recently the council sent a letter up to the state and the Corps requesting that we can do that. The spillway openings are exacerbating that problem. So, with the spillway opening, we went to emergency mode of, this is affecting our fishermen every year. We can't keep waiting. It's been 4 years that we've been, pushing for this on federal level. This is an emergency for our fishermen because they've gone through so much. They continue to go through so much, and there's so much affecting their ecology that, this is one thing that we can do to help immediately and to make a difference. So it's been a big deal for our parish administration and council to try to make that happen.
Yeah, I think getting a return to normalcy with the fishing. I know they've got a stimulus package, something being talked about right now. I don't know how that is moving forward, the fishing industry in general. Do you know anything about that?
So last year we went, our coastal department, some members from administration, Parish President McGinnis, and myself went to Washington to try to get a federal disaster declared for the spillway openings. So, the spillway has been opening more and more regularly, and the amount of fresh water that it puts in has been doing irreversible damage to our oyster industry and our shrimp industry, and even going as far as the crab industry and the charter fishing industry with the speckled trout, that it causes harm to those estuaries. It's necessary. There's no doubt. When there's homes that are going to flood, when there's a flooding threat throughout our area, through the metro area, through the city, it's necessary. There's no reason to, risk human life to not open it.
Yeah.
But the fishing industry needs to be made right when this happens. Yeah. We're doing damage to their industry, to their world, to their system. And so there needs to be some sort of compensation when that happens. So we went to Washington, D.C. last year, and we were successful in getting them to declare a federal disaster for the fisheries. The process moves slow, much too slow. It's frustrating. It's by far the most frustrating thing that I personally have to deal with is we're watching this industry get hurt over and over again, and the ability to help them is mind-numbingly slow.
Yeah.
It's they can't wait a year to get funding for a disaster that hurt them. It's about putting food on their table. They're not $1 million companies. They don't have that ability to just wait. When you put them out of business, last spring, they're trying to figure out how they're paying their light bills next month. It can't be, in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, we'll compensate you for that because they're gone.
Yep.
They can't stay in that business, and we're going to lose that part of our community because no one is waiting to do it for them. It's generational. If you lose a shrimper or if you lose an oysterman, there's not somebody that comes in and decides I want to be an oysterman today. It's their kids, it's their family, and they're watching the damage that's done to their industry every year, and they're telling their kids to do something else.
Yeah.
They're telling their kids, listen, we keep getting dealt these blows and not fixed, not having the problems addressed. Go do something else. Go do something where you're sure you can provide for your families. And we're going to lose a part of our culture that's irreplaceable. And not only to us, to the state. What does the seafood industry mean to the state?
Everything.
What happens when we don't have charboiled oysters? Or, when you come to New Orleans and, you have to get shrimp from another country. That's who we are. And to lose that would be a tragedy. I'm sorry, I went off on a little bit of a rampage there.
That's fine.
But,
That's fine.
but we have heard very recently, so I don't have complete details yet, that money has come down, like as of this week, for that 2019 disaster that was declared. I believe it's $58 million that's going to come to Louisiana in regards to that disaster. So the state Wildlife and Fisheries Department, I know, has been putting together a plan, a spend plan, on how we can get that money to the places where it'll be most effective, and hopefully straight to the fishermen who were affected. But it's much too early for me to tell you where that is exactly. We've recently, like in the last couple of days, just heard that that money is coming. So our parish government, our coastal group, and the council will definitely be working with Wildlife and Fisheries and the state over the next, couple of days, couple of weeks to see, how that process is going to work. But we're very thankful that it has gotten to this point, but still very frustrated that it takes the process that it does to make it happen. And hopefully we can adjust it so that in future years, it's just like a farm. When farmers are injured, there's a fund that is there to help them because they're important, because we can't lose our farmers. We can't lose our farmers here either. So hopefully in future years, we have a system that is ready to, get them through those times where, we're putting extra pressure on them by, man-made disasters.
Yeah, I feel like that would be exacerbated now with this COVID-19 thing, where the restaurants that would normally, pull in a ton of fish for, resident or for customers aren't able to do so. I feel like most of what I know about you, I get from your Facebook, and I know you do a lot of fishing and you're way into like the coastal restoration and development. What got you into that?
I've always been an outdoors person my whole life. I grew up hunting and fishing. Growing up, down the road, and the eastern part of St. Bernard, that's just kind of the way of life down here. So it's my passion always. I love to do it. It's, if you're going to find me decompressing somewhere, I'm going to be in a boat in Shell Beach. There's no doubt. So it's always been a part of me. I got involved more drastically when the large-scale diversions issue came in. So many of my loved ones and family are commercial fishermen, and that was kind of the first big issue that I got involved with. It's sort of the same thing as the spillway. Creating large-scale diversions that pump fresh water into our estuaries would be devastating to our fishing industry. And over the years of researching it and getting involved in it, St. Bernard Parish just doesn't believe it'll be effective in building what we're losing, or the most effective way in maintaining our marsh and getting back our coastline. And it will no doubt devastate our fishing industry. So that was my main, long before I was elected, got involved with that issue, and just trying to make the public aware of, what that meant and what it would cause to our community. You hear reconnect the river to the marsh, you hear all these slogans that feel good, right? And the river built our delta, and it did. And so the general consensus to someone who doesn't have all of the information is that's a great thing, and that's good for us, because that is how, our community was built. That's how our land was put here. So recreating that would be the best, path forward. And it's been a long journey of showing people, or trying to convince people that yes, that's how it was, but that's not our system anymore. Our river is not the same river that it was, years, centuries ago when it built this land. And the damage that it's going to do to our community is not worth what we have to give up to make it happen. So that's where my main push into the coastal world started. And then advocating for responsible restoration projects, the dredging projects that, marsh restoration, or, building ridges in our marsh that would help us right now, would help us rebuild coast right now. And our most exciting thing, I believe, is over the last year or so, we've been putting together a plan to rebuild barrier islands. And that's our cure. The thing that has helped us, survive is having those barrier islands, those outside level of protection, to knock down the wave action and to allow our marsh to, not get wiped out every time a storm comes in, is the only answer that is going to keep St. Bernard and keep our marsh, growing over the next 50 years.
Yeah.
So that's been a wonderful project, and I'm looking forward to continuing that into the future. But I'm really confident that with the cooperation of the state on that side of things, as well as our coastal department, who has been really kicking ass and taking names. They have been doing an amazing job over the last 5 years of getting us the projects that we need in St. Bernard. So it's not all doom and gloom. We have been getting so many of the projects that we're asking for on the state level, and I've been getting those marsh projects and more projects, more money being spent on the coast here in St. Bernard than as far back into history as I can see. So it's been incredibly rewarding to be a part of that, and we're not stopping now. So good things are still coming, and we're excited to see where that leads us.
I think it's incredibly important. So it's great that things seem to be moving forward. They're not being, slowed down by viruses and by politics, and they kind of are, but ideally they'd be moving forward.
Right. One thing you learn, you come into, or I guess I did at least, you come into this and you think it's easy, right? You think you can just flip switches and you can make the differences you want to see, and you sign that document that says we're not doing that anymore and it's just done, and that's not quite the way it works. And it's frustrating, especially when you got into the higher levels of government. We have a team that all has the same goals locally, so it's easier for us to get things done there. But once you get into the state and federal level, bureaucracy comes in, and you learn quickly that it takes a long time to get the things done that you want to see. But we've been pushing away at it, and after it's our 5th year as this group in office right now, you're starting to see some of those things when you first started, the ideas actually come to fruition. And it certainly shouldn't take 5 years, but at least we're accomplishing those goals and getting to where we need to be.
Absolutely. Well, great. Lastly, is there anything you would like to share with the St. Bernard Parish or greater New Orleans community?
I think if there's something that I think is important for us as we leave this virus stage, or this initial part of the pandemic that we've been facing, I think the thing that's been sticking out to me that's most important is I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. And I think that there are so many things that we should take with us from this. I think when, out of fear and worry and concern, we got put into a situation and it changed a lot of our actions. It changed the way we do business. It changed the way we, interact with our family. It changed the way we interact with our neighbors. It put us in a situation where we're back in our homes. We don't have restaurants to go to. We're back making dinners. We're back spending, time with our kids and time with our family. You see neighbors walking through their neighborhood and probably meeting neighbors that they have never met before because we're stuck in our own busy, crazy worlds. People go, the online services at church, record numbers hitting, people are turning to their families and turning to God and turning to, the things that should matter in life, ahead of the hustle and bustle that we normally deal with. And I just hope we don't lose that. I hope that we take some of that with us. If all the horrible things that have come, from this virus and, the deaths we've seen in our community and the sickness we've seen in our community, there are good there too. And I hope that as we return to normal, we remember some of those things and take them with us.